Phillips. And our Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Pickens.
Father, as we begin the proceedings in this room, we know that we are in your presence. Whether we go to the highest, or down to the lowest low, Father, you are there and your creation is there. And so, Father, for each and every one of us in the room this morning, we ask that you prepare us, that you enable us to be stewards of our part of your creation. Help us, Father, to, with passion and with civility, express our needs and make our request. Father, may the commissioners seated here this morning, their staff and those behind the scenes, may they ask you, Father, liberally for wisdom and guidance as they administer the needs of this county. But Father, may they also ask you for an extra measure of compassion so that they can manage, lead this county with the same love and compassion that you lead us. And Father, we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a move for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the March 27th meeting, the regular meeting, and March 13th workshop meeting.
Okay, have a proper first.
I'll second.
Have a proper first, proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion approves the minutes. And we're going to have a proclamation, and I'm not sure who is going to, is there any presentation anybody knows of to the Child Abuse Prevention Month?
Okay, right here.
Yes, you have a
Okay, that's what I wanted to find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Have it. Give me that one.
morning.
Morning. As you know, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and usually we signify that with pinwheels planted throughout the community. Thank you. And sometimes people think that the pinwheels represent the number of child deaths or the number of children abused each year, and this year we're trying to change the message. We want the pinwheels to represent the number of children that are engaged in activities that prevent the Department of Children and Families from getting involved in a family's life. So it could be regular medical appointments. It could be getting good grades in school. It could be something as simple as being involved in extracurricular activities, but a pinwheel to represent each one of those children. We find that those activities tend to prevent engagement with the Department of Children and Families because parents are more involved with their children's lives or caregivers. We're having a Putnam County community block party on the 18th at the CBC on Reed Street, and the community's invited. You all are invited as well. It's from 4 to 7 on the 18th, and that's to also celebrate prevention and to give parents and children, opportunities for further prevention initiatives. So you're welcome to come, but thank you for the proclamation and help recognizing Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Can we get
Commissioner
your name
Goddard?
and address for the record, please?
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
My name's Charles Puckett. I'm the Community Development Administrator for Circuit 7, which is the Department of Children and Families. And my address is based out of Daytona. It's on 210 North Palmetto, Daytona Beach, Florida, 32114, Suite 440. But I also cover Putnam County, Flagler County, and St. Johns counties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Goddard, you ready? Declaring April 2018 Child Abuse Prevention Month in Florida. Whereas Florida's future depends on nurturing and the healthy development of more than 4 million children currently in our state. And whereas the abuse and neglect of children can cause severe, costly, and lifelong problems. And whereas research shows that parents and caregivers who have support systems and know how to seek help in times of trouble are more resilient and better able to provide safe environments and nurturing experiences for their children. And whereas individuals, businesses, schools, and faith-based and community organizations must make children a top priority and take action to support the physical, social, emotional, and educational development and competency of all children. And whereas during the month of April, Prevent Child Abuse Florida, in collaboration with the Governor's Office of Adoption and Child Protection, the Florida Department of Children and Families, and the Ounce of Prevention Fund of Florida will implement Pinwheels for Prevention, a statewide campaign promoting awareness of health, child development, positive parenting practices, and the types of concrete support families needed within their communities. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that April 2018 is Child Abuse Prevention Month in Florida, and all Floridians are urged to engage in activities whose purpose is to strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for healthy child development. Mr. Chairman, I move this forward for approval.
We have a proper first, a proper second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, proclamation moves. And thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, everybody.
A presentation by Greened It Up, Cleaned It Up, Greened It Up by Kristen Mitchell.
I don't see her here. She might be running late, Mr. Chairman.
That could happen depending on where you're at.
That's right.
Unfortunately, we have had a lot of water out there. Okay, at this time, we're going to recess our meeting and go to our Port Authority meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes.
Okay, we have a proper first.
I'll second it.
Okay, and a proper second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approval of minutes moves. Do we have any public comment on Port Authority items? Again, I'll open it up for any public comment on Port Authority items. Seeing none, we'll close that. Is there any new business on Port Authority? Mr. Manning, I didn't know if you had anything on the lease or...
Mr. Chairman, if I could I get Mr. Manning just a brief update on our new tenant at the Port Authority, at the port facility, I'm sorry. Everything working for that fellow?
As far as I know, I haven't heard otherwise.
Okay,
It's moving
that's good
along
news.
since we got the lease executed. Although staff may have some additional information, but I haven't been involved anymore.
Okay,
Okay.
anybody?
Seeing nothing on the new business, let's move to old business. Do we have any comments on the old business?
None.
Okay, then we will close the Port Authority meeting and reconvene our scheduled board meeting. And at this time, we're going to have public comment. These blue cards, if you'd fill out a blue card and give it to Tony and bring it up. But I will start with, the very first one is Mr. Kenny Downs. Please give your name and your address and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Kenny Downs, 2020 Ashbrook Lane. Thank you for hearing me this morning. I'm here to speak for the recreation fields at Francis. This past weekend, they had 40 teams from North and Central Florida here to play. Had probably 1,500 to 2,000 people there. Restrooms are the issue. Restrooms and the ladies' restrooms quit working. There was one working and no water at the facility. They had about 25 little girls at one time lined up to go to the men's restroom. It's really kind of a deplorable situation when you get right down to it. We got an opportunity to show our community off regularly out there. We have anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people, citizens, that are out there every week, and we face the same thing every week. I've talked to Representative Payne, I've talked to Senator Perry. They're both very supportive of this, and I think they can get us some help this session. But we need this commission to help out. You know, when we have people coming off, they've got a district tournament in June. It's really embarrassing when you don't have portlets. And I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm saying it's embarrassing that we don't even have portlets there. And there's nothing worse than portlets at a facility like that. We need to have nice restrooms. I followed my grandchildren to different places, from Waycross to Citra to Waycross has got a Sonny's and a Hardee's. That's all they got. But they got a really nice recreation facility that's used every weekend. Costs $5 a person to get in, for adults to get in. They keep it up very nice. We've got a nice facility out there. With just a little bit of work, could be a really nice facility. But restrooms are the issue. When people go spend the day at the ballpark, they got to go to the restroom. And it makes us look as a county really bad. I was asked to come out this past Saturday, open it with prayer, salute to the flag, throw in the first pitch, and I was very proud of that. They lined up around the field. We had 40 teams out there.
Wow.
Guys, we got to do something. It's just, we've talked about it and talked about it. I've talked to commissioners individually. I will share very quickly this with you, that our last representative in Tallahassee said, we can get that done. He said, you think you can get part of the money? I said, yep, I think. Well, Rick Leary knew what the situation was. I came and called him. He said, at the time we felt like $100,000. Unfortunately, it's probably $200 today with the price of your drain fields, where they're going up, is probably $200,000 today. I called him back in about 15 minutes and said, I got my 50. If you got your 50, we still don't have that 50. That was a good bet for Rick, because he knew he couldn't get the money. You know, I knew that too. But I'm here today as a citizen of this community, a tax-paying citizen of this community, to ask for your help. And I tell you what, this commission will make an effort to do something. I'll start the ball rolling as an individual and pledge $1,000 towards it, and ask you to come in and let's do our part. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny, for bringing that to our attention. Okay, next will be Sheila Holloway.
Hello. Sheila Holloway. Address is 112 East Cowpen Lake Point Road. And I'm here to discuss our little killer dogs out there. Now, there's only one property in between me and those dogs. It's a long piece of property. It's very narrow. A good friend of mine lives there. She has to park her car in my yard and go through the gate that we have connecting our properties together, because that way she's closer to getting to her door. The dogs will run up and down the fence line. They have dug out before. They are extremely dangerous, as y'all well know from what they did to Willie. Let's see, I wrote a couple of notes down here on it. I know that one of y'all's wives loved being out in her yard. I used to love being in my yard. I can no longer do that. I can't play in the sun. I can't work in my yard. I can't mow the grass. I can't plant flowers, because I don't know when the dogs are going to get out. Even if I had a gun sitting next to me, a dog could come up behind you and you wouldn't know it until he's on you. So I no longer have that privilege. At Easter, now all holidays are at my house. At Easter, my family, my boys had to be out there with guns. So my grandchildren and great-grandchildren could hunt Easter eggs. Now, it's ridiculous when it comes to that point. that you have to have your family armed to be in the yard. We had to watch the children very closely, make sure none of them went outside of the house without one of us with them. This is ridiculous. You need to think about that, about how your Easter went, because that's how mine went. And also, another thing that needs to be thought about as far as these dogs go, we are on a peninsula. 3 sides is lake. There's only one road in and out. The end of the road is the bus stop. Now, I have noticed that the parents and grandparents are carrying their children to the bus stop and picking them up in the afternoon now. But I got to thinking yesterday with the bad weather, what if one parent or one grandparent got stuck in traffic? The child got off the bus and those dogs got out. They would not have a chance. They would be killed. And we know very well from Willie. Willie works out constantly. He jogs all the time. The man would not hurt anything. But yet those dogs attacked him. And if he hadn't have been as strong as he is and been able to get to that pile and get a stick and beat those dogs off, he wouldn't be here today. So something has to be done. This is ridiculous. So I'm hoping and praying that you make the right decision and do something for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Stevens, or Steens?
Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Terry Steves. I live at 3020 Bainbridge Road. I'm here today because the speeding has increased on my road. I've been here before about this, and I had noticed that there's a children at play sign taken down by the county. I went to the road department to find out why. I haven't had a response yet, and I was wondering if you guys know if all the signs are being taken down in Putnam County?
No, I do not know.
Because I'm still waiting to find out why that was done. Because the speeding has
I don't
increased
know.
tremendously.
I have your phone number here, and I'll call you and let you know after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Linda Kemp?
My name's Linda Kemp. I live at 103 Grove Street in Melrose. First, the good news. I want to thank whoever's in charge of the bathroom at Heritage Park in Melrose. Finally, after 8 months, the door is open and people are allowed to use our restroom with their children in the park when they have birthday parties and so on. So thank you for that. And there's still 2 porta potties there that maybe one of these other parks that need a bathroom could use. So they're still sitting by Heritage Park in Melrose. Couple of things. I was online and I saw a thing called a citizen participation request form, which I clicked. It didn't go anywhere. The page is not working. I try to do it from a couple of different pages, and it's not working. I don't know, you know, citizen participation is important, and I'm interested in it, but on the website, there's nothing there to help me with that. Okay, one other thing. I'd like to make a public records request, and I need to know who to contact for public records.
You would.
Who would?
You can contact my office, county attorney's office.
Okay, Stacy Manning, thank you.
Yes.
All right. And lastly, I'd like to know who makes the determination that a dog is dangerous And what would a dog have to do to be confiscated? You know, this situation over in Cowpen Lake is deplorable. The people can't even enjoy where they live. I don't know who's going to step up and be the hero in this situation. I mean, this has been an issue, seems like, for at least a month. And no one has been the hero to get down there and help these people. So on we go. And anyway, with the hope that one of you will do something to confiscate this dog. Thank you.
Okay, and I might comment on that we cannot do that. That is other facilities that handle that. It's not up to the county commissioners.
Okay.
We
Who-
do oversee the county, but there are certain rules and regulations that we can't supersede.
But who is the person who makes this?
Still goes back to our codes department.
Codes? Like
Codes.
you mean animal?
Public county codes. Did
Mr.
you want to
Chair.
comment on it?
Mr. Chair, if I could, please. We've had a lot of comments here this morning about animal control. As you all are quite aware, so are the folks out at Cowpen Lake and Melrose and South Putnam as well. We've had some issues lately with some animal control, with dog bites and things of that nature. There's a lot of things that, you know, there's a misperception out there. One of the things that the county commissioners will have in front of them here shortly is an updated animal control ordinance. That ordinance will give us the ability to do a few more things to offer some protection and safety for our community and our citizens, but it will also mirror that of the Florida statute, because we can't supersede the statute as well. The ordinance is in final draft form. I believe it sits today in our county attorney's office, and I've asked to have that reviewed here shortly so we can bring it to the county commissioners for a review and hopefully an approval, which will give us an opportunity then to do certain things. One of the things that we will be addressing in the ordinance itself is the and/or clause, as I like to call it. Is if we have an issue with a dog bite and we can through due process determine which dog it was, there are still due processes that we have to follow. Instead of giving the option of quarantining a house or in the county facility, it is my stance on this that all dog bites and all dogs that we confiscate will come to the county facility for the quarantine period. And I think that gives us a little bit more control over the situation and provides our citizens and those that are out there in that area a level of protection that they need to be afforded, and those are the things that we're looking at doing. I can't comment, nor will I, on the active cases that we have going now, but there are some issues that we're dealing with. But that is our stance moving forward. Ms. Kemp, I understand that's not what you want to hear. We can't comment on those, but I can tell you that this administration and my staff, we've heard the complaints, we've heard the concerns, and we're working to get something in place that we can actually use to help combat some of these issues. A lot of the issues that we're going to end up combating is not so much the dangerous dog issues, but the owners of those dogs. Those are the ones that are going to end up being held responsible. And that's the ordinance that we're going to put in place in order to give us the opportunity to do that. So, Mr. Chairman, that's where we stand with the animal control ordinance as of today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, I've read the
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
statutes.
Mr. Suggs, I appreciate your comments about that. We have worked diligently on this issue since it happened, and what I'm hearing from you is the new stance from our department head, Mr. Powell, and from you is that
Mr.
one
Powell.
time is too many, and those dogs will be confiscated. I want to elaborate on one thing that happened yesterday. Had a dog bite from a friend of mine who goes to church with me. It happened I heard about it in the post office in Palaca. The problem was when we all met with him, and you sat down and met with him. Mr. Powell was in a different meeting and could not attend, and that's understandable. He couldn't pick out the dog that bit him, and that was the problem. There was a pack of 5 dogs. So it's very, very important that, and Codes Enforcement went out there, Animal Control went out there yesterday, and did the best we can under those circumstances. So I don't want people who's watching to think that this county commission is not concerned and not doing something. We are. And Mr. Powell informed me yesterday that when they were looking at rewriting the ordinance, they found some discrepancy from the state to ours, and they're cleaning that up. So we're gonna mirror the state's ordinances. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Powell, did you have something you wanted to mention, or you'd rather just, Mr. Powell handles these things, and you gotta be so careful. You don't wanna take rights away from other people who have animals.
Well, I've read the statutes, and the statutes already seem to cover this situation. When a
Yes,
dog
I
bites someone,
understand
it
where
should be
you're coming from.
confiscated.
We've gone through the
So-
statutes. Mr. Powell, if you would.
Actually, the statute changed in 2016. The verbiage is not in there that's in our ordinance. The only way that you can confiscate the animal is if it's been deemed dangerous, you can take it the second time. However, on the first bite, unfortunately, it has to kill somebody in order for us to take the animal and put the animal down. That's been since 2016. Statute 767, 12, 13, 135, and 136. Also, the dogs yesterday, we picked up all 5 of them, and we have all 5 of them in quarantine. They've filled up our quarantine area, but they have all been taken in. We are currently running approximately 40 dogs now in the shelter of 47 available spaces.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Powell. I know you're very busy. Did you have any comments to go on? We will continue with Linda Powers and Barbara West. Yeah, if you don't mind, names and addresses, and try to limit to 3 minutes, please.
Okay, that's fine. My name is Barbara West, and the property that I'm addressing is one of my properties. It's 593 San Mateo Road, San Mateo.
Pull that closer. Get closer to the mic.
Okay.
There we go.
Did you hear me?
You gotta speak right into it.
Okay, it's 593 San Mateo Road, San Mateo. My name is Barbara West, and it's one of my properties. It was my mother's.
Linda Powers, I'm at 603 San Mateo Road, San Mateo.
We've been having a little issue trying to get the ditches between Horse Landing and Tropic, or Bream, I guess it is, dug out. And my mom went through this before she died. When they put that road in, they collapsed the culvert. She called for 2 years till she passed away. Then all of a sudden, nobody cared. And I've got this documented, and there are phone numbers. Then all of a sudden, I guess it's a renter down the street calls and says that our ditches are backing up, and my culvert is one of the problems. So it's costing me for a new culvert, because obviously it's been 10 years, and they said that's not their issue. So Linda, she's got the same issue, or the ditches are actually higher in some places than the culvert. So now I'm having to put in a new culvert. Supposed to be done this week. I was threatened that it better be done. And when you dig down into that culvert, the ditch is to the road, to the driveway. The culvert's down there, and it's been like that, and there is no ditches. What they did is when they built the new road, they filled it in so high that on the other side, I think they finally called one of the news stations, and they got out there because those houses looked like they were in a lake, and everybody on my side, or my mom's side, kept waiting for somebody to come out and help them. You can look at the pictures and see that the water was channeled in, and there is no ditch, it's a dip. And if there's someone we could talk to after this, would be wonderful, because we have pictures. And we don't want to take up everybody's time, but we've tried calling the county, and they've been very nice to us, but all they do is they come out and dig right around the culvert, and the guys told us we need them to bring out one of those machines that actually digs the ditch. And there was a guy named Mike Shannon, I can't think of his name. Strahan?
Strahan.
Okay, he was actually filling in over on Friday, and he said he was going to recommend to have that whole thing dug out from Horse Landing on that side all the way to Brim, and then when I called about it, I got somebody else, and they're like, we can't do that. So what's the point of putting in a culvert when there is no ditches?
I think the standing water is,
Get closer to the mic. I need her to get closer to the
the
mic.
standing water is what's causing the culverts to corrode, and then we're losing our driveway, and we're having to replace the culverts, but it's because of the standing water.
Okay, well, I think you did the right thing. Contact Public Works, and if that's not doing good, please contact us, and we'll see what's, what we can do.
We have already
Mr.
done
Chairman,
that.
Yes, sir, Mr.
I've talked to Ms. West in the past. She had contacted me earlier, and I had talked to her, and I had contacted Public Works, and I'd kind of ran into the same thing, that before any of the other things needed to be done, the collapsed culvert had to be done. I guess there's some ambiguity in here about who did the culvert 15 years ago or whatever, and I can't really speak to that because I wasn't here. So I don't know any of the deals, whatever. So, I'm hoping that once the culvert gets fixed, like you're talking about, you're doing it, if they don't come out and do some ditch cleaning after that, please contact me again, and I'll go to Public Works with you or for you or whatever and see if we can't do something to help with your problem.
I appreciate that, and also, if there's some way I can show you a picture later.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there a better time, like after the meeting, or make appointment, or?
You can do it today, or you can email me if you'd like. Do you have email capability to send
Yeah,
me
but
the
I'd rather
picture?
talk to you, because I want to
Okay.
show you the picture so you can understand.
I'll be happy to meet with you if you like. It's no problem. Do
What
you have
time?
my
After this?
contact information?
Can we meet after the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I sure do. Can I give this to her, Tony, or do I have to give it to you first? I know who really runs the show here.
We want to thank you all.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. And we do need these things brought to our attention because we're just not sure. We don't know everything that's going on out there. All right, is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Please come forward, give your name and your address. I prefer a blue card to go to Tony, yes.
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm Denise Burnshead. I live at 216 Ashley Lake Drive in Melrose, just inside the Putnam County line. I'm just here to express my desire for the county to ban chaining dogs 24/7. I've done a lot of research for a lot of years on it. I mean, with the time being as it is now, we've got Animal Planet, we've got news reports. Everybody sees that classic, sad story, and the dog's, in the middle of a hurricane or, freezing in the middle of winter. I'm trying to rescue one right now that's right behind Melrose Bay, chained up. Saw him a couple weeks ago on a Friday. Long story. And y'all have, I sent y'all an email that includes a video and some pictures. The benefits of doing it, I didn't even realize until I had done more research. It's not just that would obviously make, the codes would be much more humane, because these dogs on chains, most of the time they're not fed properly. You know the story. And they're lonely. And when they're lonely, they eventually can snap, which is then a public health hazard, a public safety hazard. In this dog's case, and in every other case for the past couple decades that I've ever checked in on, these dogs are having to live in their own feces. So there's a picture that I sent to you guys where, here's the dog. He's living and sleeping and trying to eliminate somewhere away from his home base, which is a natural act for a dog. So having tried to convince the commission to do this in the past, it was kind of hard because there are roadblocks to that, or there have been roadblocks to that, and one of them was financial. Well, I'm just now learning that for those counties, which is a lot of counties in Florida now, have actually changed to become a total ban, including our neighbor, Alachua County. Just found that out. They did this in June of 2017. People are going to need to get fencing of some sort or some sort of big crate. There's businesses that will, I have to do more research on it, but there are businesses that will help donate supplies or cut the price of their supplies. There are organizations that will help build for people that can't, comply to a new code that says you simply can't chain your dog all day, every day. in terrible weather anymore. So in the email that I did send you, there is a list of the counties that I've found. It could probably use an update because of the site that I ended up finding it from, but I contacted the, am I over time? Is that what that means? Okay,
Yes, you're
I'll make
over
it quick.
time.
The Alachua County Assistant Manager, her name is Gina Peebles, would be more than happy to talk to you guys on how they did it. And they wanted to, she's mentioned something else about networking, but anyway, that's in the email. Just wanted to, just let y'all be aware of that, please.
Thank you.
Please.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other public comment before I close that out? So your name and your address?
Zenny Best, 200 Hayes Drive, Interlachen, Florida, 32148. I'm here in representation of the mental health community. We looked at a
Speak closer to that mic.
we were talking the last time about the commission, your commissioners helping us try and find a director for our psychosocial vocational rehabilitation center for people with mental illnesses. All you need to qualify is some kind of diagnosis sometime in your lifetime with a mental illness, and we can help you get all the help you need to get through your life, your day. In our community now, mentally ill people are overlooked, and we don't know how to get services. And with the clubhouse, we'll have a local place in our county, in our city here, where we can find the help that we need: Social Security, housing, clothing. We have people living in the street, in the woods. And with the climate in our country now, people with mental illnesses are really starting to ask questions and not get answers, and we turn into animals after a while. I was at a board meeting, and one of the board members said some of them like to live in the woods. That was a ridiculous statement, but this is some of the things that we have to confront before we get to the help we need. And with a mental illness, it just takes one no, and then you turn around and you destroy your life and other people's life, and the rest of your family goes with you. With the clubhouse, we're able to get you housing, get you the services that you need. The government has services for us, but we just don't know how to get them. It took the Social Security office away. We can have the Social Security Department and these other health departments come to us if we have a place for them to come. And with a clubhouse, when you get out of the hospital, you're put back into the same environment that made you sick or got you sick or had something to do with your illness. With the clubhouse, you always have some place to go every day. You don't wake up and go sit out on the corner or sit out on the porch. We're taught how to take care of ourselves, what you need to do today to get you through to tomorrow. That's what happens in the clubhouse. We have people to get in the clubhouse with the same diagnosis that you have, and others are doing better than others, and we help each other get to where they need to be. But in our county now, we don't have this. We don't have access to the collusion of services or people that have been there years mentally ill, and they know how to get through the system and the processes and the applications and the legal parts of being mentally ill and receiving the services that you deserve. With the clubhouse, this is what happens. This is how we heal each other. And it's so sorely needed. The last time I was here and I spoke before the commission, which was the last meeting, we asked the commissioners to help us find a director, Mr. Alex Sharp. We had the building, we had the opening date. He passed away 2 weeks before our opening date, and so it set us back tremendously. The board, the last time I was here, they said they'd help us look for a director for our program, and I'm here today requesting and begging the council to just look at this and help some of the people. I saw a gentleman, but like I said before, walking down the street, one pants leg rolled up, no shoes on, big bump on his head, real dirty T-shirt. That doesn't represent Putnam County. That doesn't represent us. We're better than that. That man there was something wrong with that man. And in that, he could hurt himself or someone else, but it's taken for granted that he'll take care of himself. No, that's not the way we live in this country today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that session and we will move to the consent agenda.
I have nothing today.
Mr. Pickens?
Have none. I have none.
I have none, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, items A through I.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a proper motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Consent agenda moves. We'll move to discussion of the landfill RPF. Mr. Suggs, did you want to comment on that?
Mr. Chairman, the item was brought forward today. As you know, there was an RFP put out in February. It closed March 28th. Thank you. It closed on March 28th. Proposals would include viable options for alternative methods of disposal and/or acceptance of Class 1 waste and other governments and from other governments and entities. Proposals were due on the 28th. That date is coming past. The county received 2 responses. The respondents were Waste Pro and Waste Management. Recommendation for action today is to determine whether there is a need for an evaluation meeting or to discuss responses of RFP 18-11.
Okay. The way I understood it, any comments?
Yes, sir, I do, Mr. Chairman. I guess I need to pull this a little better. Okay. I think that we asked, if we back up just a little bit, we asked for proposals and hoping during that workshop that we'd get a proposal, I think a little different. We were hoping that we'd get some kind of a cutting edge or some kind of help with it, and I guess at this particular time it just came down to basically the 2 proposals. And while I surely appreciate both of those companies taking the time to submit those proposals, and I'm not trying to make light of either one of them or their effort that they took to do it. Basically, one of them says that we'll build you a facility, a transfer facility, and we'll haul your garbage to another landfill, and you mothball your landfill, and for an amount to be determined at a later date. And if the amount is high enough that we get from you, we'll give you a big old cash payment up front. That was basically one of them. And the other one was for $23.63, I think was the amount. I don't have it right here in front of me.
2360.
23, what was it?
2360 per ton, I believe.
2360 per ton. They would operate the landfill for us, but not the whole landfill, just basically the burying part of the landfill, not all the other portions, which are the licensing, the leachate, all the other recycling tires, all the other aspects of the landfill that add to our costs in the landfill. So after talking with staff some about this, personally, I feel that because while we have this request for proposal in place, the staff can't go and talk to them. They can't talk to other people. It's kind of a black spot until we do something. So, in my opinion, I think we just need to reject both these proposals, and it'll turn staff loose to go back to talking to people about the next step we need to take. And then we need to workshop this item again as soon as we can fit it in to see what the next step we need to do now that we went through what the commissioners voted to do, which was to have an RFP to see if we could get any interest from somebody in something different than basically what we just got proposals on. So
With that being said, I mean, after the commissioners decide that they have more to say or whatever, I'm willing to offer a motion whenever at the proper time.
Okay, let's hold on. Do we have any other comments?
I would just like to concur with Commissioner Turner. I don't think it produced the results we were looking for. We're basically still in the landfill business under both proposals. There was no mention by either company about the scale house, which would be our responsibility, and that, of course, is a lot of our labor and expense and this sort of thing. But I think that it got a ball rolling, Commissioner Turner, and I think that you're very wise in letting staff go out and do what they do in this respected field, and we might find something, but I'm supporting Mr. Turner's request.
Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, I also agree. I was looking for something a little different, something that we could, turn the landfill over, the whole thing, and that's not what we got. So I think I agree with Chip and Commissioner Turner. Turn it over to staff.
Mr. Harvey?
Thank you. I'm going to take a little different approach. I've talked to staff also about the need to go through these proposals. I think it would merit us to continue down this path, invite the two respondents to the table, and let's talk about the concerns that we currently have that were brought up today. But right now, we haven't been able to talk to anybody, and the item for discussion today is for a need for evaluation, and I think there is a need. I think that we could open these books up with the two companies and say, here's our concerns, and do you have, and maybe after that meeting, they both go, no, we're not really interested in that, we'll move forward. But I think I'd rather talk to them prior to throwing it out today.
Okay. And just so everyone's aware, and I also discussed this with the staff, if we mothball, what they were saying, mothball our landfill, that's very expensive still. Leachate, the scale, everything still has to be maintained by our county. So it's not as easy as just, locking the gate. It doesn't work that way. So, Mr. Turner, I'm going to turn it back to you.
I move that we reject both proposals and move forward with a workshop to look at other avenues.
Yes, sir.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a proper first and a proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion moves. Do we have
I
a
think
day?
you're looking for opposed.
Okay, all those opposed?
I oppose. Thank you. Aye.
All right. It was, we have 4 that yes, 1 that's no, and so we'll move forward with this. Is there,
And Mr. Chairman, I would like to say one other thing. I don't see anything that would prevent us, if we felt like it, from going back and talking to these two people about the exact same thing that they've proposed. If it turns out that after workshop, we feel like that's in the best interest of the county. So we're just giving ourselves and staff the ability to move forward with other proposals.
correct, that's the
Thank
way
you.
I see it, that we didn't accept either
That's correct.
proposal. So, do we need to set a date that we can do this as a
When can we
special
do
workshop?
Workshop,
If it's okay with the commission, I'd like to look at our calendars after this meeting.
Okay.
We got a workshop this afternoon.
We have
Maybe
a
we can come
workshop
up with
and
a
we can
date
discuss it
this
then.
afternoon.
Okay, all right, well, great. In that case, then we will close this on the landfill, and we'll move to comments by Mr. Tim Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could get Daniel to do me a favor, will you ask Mr. Wells to step in out at the security section, please? As a number of you know, that he celebrated an 80th birthday last week, and we had a little get-together for him at the courthouse complex, and Commissioner Turner and Commissioner Harvey were able to come by. But I just want to say a few words because I know we recognize our employees for a number of reasons. Although Mr. Wells is not my employee, he works for Weiser, who is contracted to assist us with security. But I thought it was important because Mr. Wells, who had a great career at Georgia Pacific, retired from there, then came down and joined us. Why don't you go over to the podium? That way people can,
Yeah, we
can
haven't
see you
embarrassed you,
on,
goodness.
on the TV while I talk for just a second. And Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you giving me just a second here. But I wanted to say a few words about Mr. Wells. He's one of those unique individuals that can really interact with and make anybody that comes to that facility feel welcome and valuable. And a lot of times folks that end up at our facility are, you know, there's issues in their lives. They're struggling with how to move forward with that. That's a intimidating and sometimes threatening building, and people are nervous. But I've seen on many occasions when someone had mobility issues, Mr. Wells wheeling the wheelchair out to a car and getting them down the ramp, up the elevator to the right room. I've seen him take food to people that needed it. I have also witnessed him nurture a sick squirrel, if you can believe that, who ended up becoming kind of the pet of the courthouse. And the interesting thing was that squirrel, when it had some babies, brought those babies also to the door. And that squirrel would just go up the door and sit down and wait for Mr. Wells to come out and feed it. But he is a wonderful man and represents all that's right with good public service. And on his 80th birthday last week, it was just gave me an opportunity to publicly recognize him and thank him for all his work. So he continues to do that for us today. So, you know, most people at 80 are fishing or doing something like that, but he's still working with us and helping us do our job. So I just wanted to publicly recognize him and extend a happy birthday to him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you said, Mr. Smith. I've been knowing him since he was a boy. And when he used to play across the street from where I live. I appreciate all they done for me, and I enjoy working with a group of people. You couldn't work with a better group of people than I have in 13 years at the courthouse. When I was asked to come down here, I thought I did it for Kenny Downs' favor, because Kenny and I worked together for many years. And I always told him when I retired from GP, I was going to go to work for him. I didn't want to work. I just wanted a place to go and have something to do. So they invited me to the courthouse, and I've been down there with them ever since, and I appreciate it. I know most of the guys up on the stand there, too. Remember Terry when he was just a boy. But it's been a pleasure working with people at the courthouse, and it's been a pleasure coming up here with working with county commissioners, bringing the people into the meetings every day, and I've enjoyed it. And Mr. Smith is a dear friend of mine, and Kenny both, and I appreciate all you've done for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was very good. Okay, we now have public hearing for the Better Place Plan project, which includes inventory for vehicles and equipment.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. What we have before you today is an ordinance of the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, relating to the Better Place Plan, providing an amended general description of the infrastructure projects to be funded, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. Real quickly, the board adopted an ordinance back in 2002, which authorized the levy of a 1% surtax, which was then approved by a referendum of the voters. That's called the Better Place Plan. In 2015, this surtax was reauthorized, again, both by board ordinance as well as referendum to the voters. That ordinance contains or has attached to it Exhibit A, which is a project list, which lists the type of improvements contemplated by the Better Place Plan for spending of those 1% tax dollars. It provided that that project list could be amended as deemed necessary. Back in, I guess it was 2 months ago, February of 2018, this board amended that project list to include the animal shelter, and before you today is an additional amendment to that list to include vehicles and equipment. And we break down a number of different areas where vehicles and equipment may be funded by these proceeds. These types of purchases are authorized by the statute, which the enabling statute for the 1% surtax, and it specifically includes any vehicle and other equipment that has a life expectancy of at least 5 years. So that is what we are talking about here. Again, consistent with our discussion in February, these types of purchases are allowed by the statute. We're just bringing this before you today just to increase transparency so that everybody knows that this list is consistent with those things that are being purchased as authorized by the statute. And this is a public hearing.
Yes, it is. So do we have any comments by the public on this ordinance? Any comments at all by the public? Seeing none, we'll close that. Commissioners? Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Second.
So we have a proper first, proper second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approved.
Thank you all.
All right, any appointments? I'll start with Mr. Lible.
I have none today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay.
I have
Mr.
none.
Pickens. Mr. Turner?
I have none, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mr. Harvey?
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was asked to reach out to Mayor Terrell Hill of the city of Palaca to see if he'd be willing to continue serving on the Affordable Housing Committee, and he has agreed to accept the appointment, if so be by the county commission.
Okay.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Okay. Does that have to go through a motion?
Yeah, that one will.
Yes, this is an at-large appointment.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. The motion moves. All right, so we have, that'll be all on the appointments. Let's see, so we'll move to County Administrator, Mr. Suggs.
Yes, sir, just a few comments. First of all, we have a understanding we don't respond a lot to public comment, but I will like to say that I understand that there's been some concerns with the Parks and Recs throughout the Putnam County this year. So just want to make the commission aware that I've met with our director, Ms. Wisnant, and we're working on some things to try to upgrade some of the facilities of some of our local parks. Had an opportunity to tour the South Putnam area, been to Francis Park, and just this past Friday, I was out at the one out off of Twin Lakes, is it? I'd say that cautiously because I was lost for the first time in Putnam County last Friday.
I took him a ride on West Putnam.
Little ride is an understatement. But, we do have an opportunity with the amount of parks we have in our county, the amount of folks that visit our county, and our youth that participate at these parks, that we need to take a serious hard look at what it is that we're offering, and we need to address those concerns. Me being a former baseball coach, AAU coach, it just, I want to see activities for our youth in these parks because it just means so much for our community. So we'll be looking at that very hard this coming budget cycle. Also, Mr. Tompkins is not here today, nor is our Deputy County Administrator, Mr. Reynolds. I sent both of them down to the Water Management District meeting this morning. Fortunately, I sent them last night so they could beat this rain and be safe. We're waiting to hear. We've got two outstanding opportunities being heard this morning by the Board of Directors at the Water Management District. That would be the Pico Road, LC Road area, as well as the area around Horse Landing. We had an opportunity to apply for a grant to help get some of these septic tanks off the system and hook up to our sewer system. I want to commend Commissioner Turner this morning because he held the open house meetings where we had to get folks to sign up to participate in this project. And hopefully with some blessing this morning and good news from the Water Management District, we're in line for about $1.2 million to fund both of those projects. And again, Commissioner Turner, thank you for your assistance on that. And I think it was a very quick turnaround. I got to give props to staff. Mr. Nimitz, I believe, is here in the audience this morning, worked extremely hard. Public Works in general worked extremely hard putting those meetings together on very short notice. And got those, I believe you had, what, about 2 or 3 days turnaround time, if I'm not mistaken, on that grant. And listen, to have that short of a period of time, to get a meeting together, to host it, to get all the paperwork done and get back in, and be on the list for funding, it's a tremendous, accomplishment, and they need to be commended for that, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Turner.
I thank you for the accolades, Mr. Suggs, but it really was not me. It was Public Works. They found out about this grant, I think, and they had about 2 days to decide if we were going to go after it or not. About 1 more day or 2 more days to set up our meeting and meet with the residents, and I think they had 3 more days to turn it in to the end of when they could to the deadline. So, while I would like to take the accolades for this, I can't. It's Public Works. They did a good job on this one for the county. Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause.
I was hoping to get a message before we broke up this morning. I hadn't got one yet.
I'd like to get an explanation, if I could, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
from Mr.
please.
Suggs or Mike Nimitz. Is it 2 projects and 1 grant, or 2 grants and 2 projects?
2 and 2.
Two.
Okay, so we're getting both of them, possibly.
Possibly. That's
All right.
what we're counting on this morning. The information that was supplied and put together and put forth in the packet was deemed responsive enough to show that there was a great need and ranked high enough to at least be considered on both projects.
Well, I commend Mr. Nimitz. We've had a great past 10 months with Water Management District, and I know you've been key in that. Thank you.
When we're talking about Water Management District, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, he comes to our meetings when he's in town and has an opportunity. We need to make sure that we thank Jim Troiano with the Water Management District, because he has really been instrumental in helping us, as well as the other municipalities in Putnam County, be fruitful in our attempts. So next time you see Mr. Troiano, I'd suggest we all say thank you very much, because he's working real hard for Putnam County. He sure is. Mr. Chair, the last thing I have this morning is the commission at a workshop, a transportation workshop. We talked about going out for an RFP with the Better Place plan to look at getting a bond for $10 million and then $20 million overall on getting some road repairs done and moving forward on that. I had a great conversation with Mr. Smith and Ms. Franks last week about this. We're in the process of doing our research, getting information gathered up to put an RFP together. One of the things that we talked about is some of the areas in the RFP will be reaching out to those potential agencies and lending institutions that would like to do business with us, working on getting some feedback on rate structures and things of that nature. I've asked I let Ms. Franks know that I bring this up today, so if there's any other questions that we may have here today or any other comments or concerns from the commission, now would be the time to let's talk about it, so we can help Ms. Frank get the RFP out on the street that the commission is looking for.
Mr. Chairman, my only question would be to Ms. Frank, is there any questions that you may have that we can give you direction on, or are you pretty clear at this point about what we're looking for as far as proposals from the banks?
What I found is how we did it in 2006. I actually found those letters, and if it's okay with y'all, we can structure it the same. It was requested to be like a line of credit such that it would have drawdowns during a drawdown period, and then there was a stated ending date for the drawdown period. The county would have paid interest during that drawdown period, and I would assume we could go ahead and ask them if we wanted to make principal payments during that time also. And then at that time, when the drawdown period was done, it was to be converted to a revenue note with a maturity date ending with the current Better Place plan. And then, of course, the Better Place plan was the security, the collateral for it. So that's how the former Better Place plan notes were structured, how they were requested. I also found out that USDA has a community facilities program that we could apply for with a term up to 40 years. That would probably take a little bit longer to get in place because they said it would be a bond.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the interest rate on the USDA RD money that they were talking about is actually higher than what it looks like the banks may offer. Not sure yet until we get our proposal, but if we can, and it will add probably at least a year to the process to go through RD to try to get the money instead of going back through through normal channels. So I think the only difference between this and what was done years ago is that we're gonna have to do it in two, it looks to me like two loans, because there's a maximum of 10 million in a calendar year. We've been told that we're allowed to borrow and remain qualified for a tax advantaged loan. And so if that's the case, then if we could do part of it this year, and during the negotiations with the bank as far as what they would propose, if we could go ahead and ask them how they would handle the second loan, and I mean the second portion of the loan. Would it be one big loan in 2 different years and classified in 2 different years, or would it be 2 separate loans because of the way to remain qualified? I would also like to know what the difference between a qualified and non-qualified loan is, and we were looking at that the other day, but it wasn't a it was only a reach out to your banking contacts, and so, but it seemed to me like it was only 8 or 10 or 12 basis points difference between one and the other. So I mean, if it's that close, it may be, we've got something else, and I haven't brought this up yet. I was gonna do it under commissioner comments, but because it fits right in with the discussions that we're having, Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me, I'll go ahead and bring it up right now.
Yes, sir.
I was told last week one day that we have taken the money that we used to build that we had set aside for our new cell liner at the landfill, and we used it to pay debris cleanup. Mm-hmm. And so if we deem that we're gonna run out of capacity sooner than we think because we don't have the money to build the cell, it may be that we're gonna also have to borrow the money. He didn't spend it all, but just a portion of it that he needed. We might need to determine how much money we need to build that cell or to line that new cell. And then, I don't know if we can pledge our FEMA monies as payment to that loan or not, but we could use that one because it's a lot less money than what the first loan we were talking about. We could pledge the FEMA money to repay it and pay the extra 8 basis points, and then, which is not nearly as much on the $3 million. I don't know that it's $3 million, but around $3 million, what I think he ended up having to take out of the sale money to do the other. Isn't that about right, that he used for cleanup?
Yeah, I think.
Well, he's not here today.
No.
He's on vacation.
Lynn's here.
About $3 million, I think, in general terms, so. Okay, so anyhow, that may be something else we need to look at also, whereas we're looking at the landfill and our capacities on it, and how quick we're gonna need the cell to the side of where the one is now that's almost at capacity until they get another cell, and then they can start building them up, but the footprint's not big enough yet. This is at least what I was told last week by our sanitation director when I was discussing it with him. So, I think that if we could ask Ms. Frank today just to see what's available. I don't think anybody here has approved it yet or not or whatever, but if she can just find out what's available on an RFP, what is qualified and what wouldn't be qualified, and the basis points between them, which is pretty much, she found that out now, but it was through a contact and not through an official request. So if maybe she could just do the official request the same way that she's already done, I think it would help us be able to make the decision on how to move forward from where we are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. There is value to this plan that Commissioner Turner is talking about. And Mr. Nimitz, would you help me out for just a second? You and I spoke, if you'll come to the podium, you and I spoke last week about the difference in pricing per mile of paving, turning dirt into pavement. And I believe last year the number was closer to 400,000. And then this year, when Press mentioned it in our workshop, it was $283,000 per mile on a normal, all things considered. I think it was about 110,000 different per mile, which is significant from last year to this year. And we have those contracts in place now to provide that, correct?
Yes, that's correct. For the resurfacing, we do the continuing services.
Okay,
Now
so
for
we'd
a-
still have to put the dirt to pavement out to bid, but
Yes,
what
that's
we're seeing,
correct.
those prices come in around 283,000 a mile.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Good, which is a tremendous savings from last year to this year.
It is,
Yeah.
that's correct.
And
there's a number
economy to scale, we could also maybe see possible a reduction in that if mobilization is taken out and other things. So this very well might be a very big win-win for Putnam County here.
Yes, absolutely. The larger the package, the more attractive it is, and the more competitive the contractors will be. And mobilization is a cost consideration, so that does bring the price down per mile. So the more mileage you can get, the more we should pursue that.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mr. Nimitz.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity.
Any other comments on this?
I just would like to ask Ms. Frank, does she have, are you good now as far as where we're going, or?
Well, Terry Suggs and I just were mentioning, so we could request actually two different ways. We could request one loan, like a line of credit again, at the 20 million, which would be non-qualified, or we could, and then we could send out a separate RFP for one loan at the 10 million, which would be bank qualified, with the idea, and we could state it in our RFP, that down the road, that we will probably, in the future, ask for another 10 million. I seriously doubt that the banks are gonna give you a rate for a second $10 million loan today, because they're gonna want to lock something in, and it would be structured like two loans. You'd have one loan today at the 10 million, and then a year from now, you would be requesting another, and you could even have two separate banks at that point, because then you would go out for another RFP on a secondary 10 million. So my understanding from what you're asking is go ahead and send out two RFPs today, one for 20 million non-qualified and one for 10 million qualified.
No, ma'am, that's not what I requested. Today, I think what we need to do is send a request to the banks. That's the reason it was $10 million a year to remain qualified. And so I think that we need to ask each bank, explain to me what we're looking for. We're looking for two $10 million deals that would be qualified. So that means 10 million this year, 10 million next year. If they can't give us the second rate yet or whatever, they can just say so. But it may be that they offer a second rate even at this time, as knowing that they're gonna get both $10 million loans and that they would both be qualified.
Okay.
So that would be my
that's what I wanted to know.
suggestion, yeah.
I concur.
Mr. Chairman, if I just might add, in regards to, listening to this discussion, in regards to utilization of continuing services contracts, there are instances where that use might be limited based upon where the funds are coming from for those particular projects, just to let you know.
Okay. And we'll move right into county attorney's comments.
I have nothing further.
Okay, then we'll do the commissioner's comments, and I'll start with Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, I think I would like to take this opportunity to thank staff again for participating and helping me out with things I don't know. They seem to always make the extra mile, and I appreciate that. Also, I would like to say that I truly enjoyed, and congratulations to the, not to take Commissioner Pickens' thunder, but I knew it's coming, but the Catfish Festival this past weekend was real nice. I enjoyed it. He allowed me to help him some in his booth and his swamp cabbage booth. I'm certainly not a swamp cabbage expert, but I know a lot more than I did last week, so. So, also, Mike Nemeth, before you leave, would you, meet with me and Miss West, please? Thank you, and that should do it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Harvey?
You know, I really do want to thank, and I know Commissioner Pickens is going to mention this, but as the president of the Interlochen Rotary Club, we, our Rotary clubs work together, the four of us, and then add the fifth one in from Hastings. And it's just a pleasure to go down to Catfish, and it's a pleasure to go to other organizations that we do together and work together and make a difference in this community. I also want to thank Mr. Suggs. I did put him in the car last Friday and took him to places he didn't even know existed in West Putnam. He thought he heard the banjos playing, if you will, but we were way out there, and he saw some tremendous elevation of land. He saw countless dirt roads. He saw trash piles. He saw everything. So he's got a better appreciation of West Putnam. And when he mentioned the parks out there, you know, if you haven't been around for a while or know the history of some of these things, the West Putnam Park was done by a gentleman named Charles Comeau, and he worked for Windstream or Altel at the time. And he got the Army Reserves to bring their pans out and take that old borrow pit and level it out. I remember standing there watching them do that. And but I want to say that, you know, when Miss Wisnet came to work for the county, she came the same time I did, and she inherited a lot to do. And I want to say that it's looking better and better. There's still a lot of work to be done. And again, I think Mr. Suggs has a better appreciation of some of the areas now and what's going to take place and what needs to be done. Putnam County is on the brink of greatness, and I really do believe our best days are ahead of us. And with this commission working together as we have, it's encouraging. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Lymel?
Passed over. I would like to thank Commissioner Pickens, too, for a wonderful Saturday morning at Catfish Festival and seeing all the folks. It's always a great time. I'd like to remind everybody that this Saturday we have the Palaca Bicycle Festival. So around Putnam County, there'll be a lot of cyclists all through the back roads, so keep an eye out, be careful, and come participate. They stage at Fred Green Park in the city of Palatka, and they'll be from out of state, all over the state, and just a lot of bicycle folks and a lot of activities planned. The other big event this Saturday is U-Turn. If any families that you might know or even yourself are affected by this opioid crisis, this is a great event. It's at our Triangle Park out on US 17 and Highway 19. And you will see the services from around the state there that help this situation. The sheriff can tell you this is a place that you can find help. You truly can. Mr. Best, I know you're here on those same lines, and but they have a national recording artist as entertainment, and then there are faith-based groups all through this 10 area that can help you with a situation. So anyhow, if you want to come out for pure entertainment, it's that too. And there's some great bands and great people, and there's no cost to it. And they'll feed you really good. There are games and bounce houses and everything under the sun for children. It's really a great day in the park. So I encourage everyone to come out to U-Turn this Saturday at Putnam County's Triangle Complex. And outside of that, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Mr. Pickens, the Catfish Festival.
Okay, I wasn't really going to say anything about Catfish.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to start by thanking Angie Wisnott, Joe Groves, County Administrator Suggs, and Mike Pegg. We met at the South Putnam Complex and discussed just some concerns there. And I know Recreation works on a very limited budget, but we're going to move forward with some improvements there. And that facility really gets used, especially for soccer. Over 200 kids participate in a soccer program that's coming up in the fall. And I will say something about Catfish Festival. It was our 40th year, and other than the rain, it was a very successful festival. I want to thank everybody for their participation, and all the volunteers. I know Bob Stender's back there. He and Brenda Bridges came down and helped. Also, the Rotary clubs from the Crescent City Club, which sponsor it, the Noon Club in Palaca, the Breakfast Club, and the Interlochen Lakes Area Club, they all participate, and they help us with this festival. And also, I want to thank Chairman Goddard. He came down to actually boot out cabbage, and then Commissioner Turner came and cut the cabbage up, and I appreciate that, so you know a little bit about the work that's involved. And also, I want to thank Commissioner Harvey for emceeing. Larry gets down to about 8 o'clock in the morning and starts the MC process at 9, and it goes to about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's a full day for Commissioner Harvey. Also want to thank the commissioners who participated in the parade. Commissioner Turner and myself did, along with Commissioner Leibel. He brought his bell, and so that was recognized.
And my wife, a wife and a bell.
And also the constitutional officers, Mr. Smith was there, and I know school board representatives and clerk or supervisors of elections, I believe, and property appraiser. And I also want to mention our sheriff's department. They're always well represented with Sheriff DeLoach and Joe Wells. They bring their horses down, but when the DeLoach family comes to a parade, it's like a little entourage. They bring their whole family, so it's Gator, his wife Jennifer, their 3 boys, and this year they had their niece with them. So it's neat to see them using that as a family event, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, and that's all I have.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Suggs, I think you had a couple comments.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. One thing is, as you know, I've been working with staff. We're going to try to do our first recognition of countywide employees in the next couple of weeks, where we're going to bring them in and present them with some pins for their time of service and thank them for what they do for Putnam County, their respective departments, and for our citizens. I'm hoping that's a success. It's going to be a trial by fire, but we're going to work through some things, and we're going to make this one of the things that we can be proud of in recognition for our staff. Not just the Board of County Commissioner staff, but I'd like to invite all the constitutionals as well to participate. I think it'd be an excellent opportunity for us to have the ability to thank them all publicly, and I think that's well deserved. And also lastly, a bit of a sad note, you know, last week the city of Palaca lost one of their own, and you know, had an opportunity to represent Putnam County at the memorial service on Saturday afternoon, and it's one of those tributes that the fire department, public safety folks, when it comes to passing on one of their own, they know how to do it. They do it right. It's a wonderful ceremony. It's well represented by public safety folks from all over the state, and you know, it's a very emotional time, and one of reverence, and I was very proud to be there. And I just want to publicly, and I'm sure this won't be the last time you hear it, I'm sure the city folks will want to do it in the future, but can't say enough for our public safety folks, Quinn Romay staff, Quinn, Ryan, Anthony Gedris. When we got the initial call that night was there. Quinn and I were at the hospital till about 2 that morning with the family, but our staff went above and beyond just to make sure everybody was taken care of. We filled in where necessary. We've heard nothing but great things from the city of Palaca, but that's the type of relationship that we share, and very proud of that. Very proud of how we do work together. I'm very proud of Quinn and his staff for what they did during a very difficult time for the city of Palaca. But you know, when the need arises, I have found since I've been in this seat that we pull together, and it doesn't matter if it's county, city, or what. This commission, this staff will do whatever it takes and whatever is necessary to handle a difficult situation. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of my staff, and I'm very proud of the opportunity to share that with you folks here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the staff. I don't think the public realizes just how much you do and the answers that we demand and you come up with. So I want to thank you very much for the timely response that we do get our answers. And I've had the opportunity to work with this commission up here. These guys actually work. It doesn't look like it up here, but they actually work. Thank you. They do a good job. And I do want to say something about the Catfish Festival and Mr. Bill Pickens. Bill did not slow down. I don't know if he slowed down at all, but he does a lot of prepare work that's behind the scenes you don't see, some hard work, but he is a key part of the Catfish Festival, and it's just enjoyable to work up there. And those that don't get out and see Putnam County, you're just missing it. We are very fortunate to have this county. And right now, we're one of the largest recharging stations for our aquifer, and we are recharging it very well right now. So, with that, thank you very much, and we are closing this meeting.
You got time to go to the funeral.
I do. I'm gonna make